On this episode, we bring up Luke Harper's possible singles run, Big Show pulling down the Russian flag, WWE 2K15 news, BunnyMania, Ambrose, and more now on Byte That. Welcome everybody to episode 58 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat, maybe, international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is Judy Bagwell. Thank you for hitting that download button, checking out the show. Remember, if you like it, you can leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher. That goes a very long way into supporting us. You can also subscribe. Check us out on social media by searching at Byte That Cast. My name is Juan Velas. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And joining me this week all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty.
Juan, I witnessed a massacre last night.
Really? What happened?
Yes. Simultaneously while watching Raw, I was also watching Monday Night Football, and my team, the New England Patriots, just, they do not look the same anymore. It's a bit like a wrestler at the end of his career where he just ain't what he used to be. And that's pretty much what I've been witnessing the past few weeks, and it's just really sad.
So I think we need to have at some point after the show maybe just, talking, Ryan. I know that us as fans, we sort of get a little sad in your case. I mean, wow, 2 screens, 2 pieces of torture. And speaking of 2 pieces of torture, you may notice that we're only 2 people talking. Keith is unfortunately not with us this week. He has a work commitment. That Flin-Flon, man, it's keeping him busy. We got to get Keith out of there, man.
I don't know. He's got a pretty good gig. He is doing broadcasting work. So, it can only help the podcast.
Exactly. It's pretty awesome. So we'll definitely see him back here next week. However, we really do have a lot of things to talk about. Raw was in Chicago this week. Always, it's a very overwhelming experience. I mean, I don't even need to bring up the expected CM Punk chance that happened. There was a black guy with a CM Punk outfit, a Halloween costume that allegedly, and I'm going to say allegedly because always, these people spin the reports to the fans' favor. He was kicked out or moved or something. Something happened where basically afterwards he was not allowed on camera side. Yet ironically, that costume came out like a week ago.
Really? Is it WWE's own issued costume?
Yeah, that's an official, WWE Halloween costume that, a wrestling fan buys. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to a wrestling show. I got camera side seats. Oh, what's that? What? I can't be on camera side because I bought something that you have me buy? What's going on, man?
Well, it's because those were probably produced like 6 or 7 months ago, and they're like, well, we got all these costumes, and we're not just going to throw them away, so we might as well sell them. And then they ban people from wearing them at their own shows. That is pretty unbelievable. I didn't even know that. But one question I want to ask you is, does it feel like they go to Chicago like 5 times a year?
I mean, it definitely does seem like it because, Hijack Raw was this year. All that stuff happened.
It was at Payback as well. So, beginning of the year, pretty soon after Punk walked out, wasn't there the Hijack Raw thing? And then we had Payback in Chicago, and then we have another Raw in Chicago. I know it's a big city. It's just funny. It really seems like they're there all the time. And another place I felt like they are all the time is that arena in Brooklyn, like the Barclays Center or something. And guess what? They're going there next week. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess those are pretty easy places to sell out. You see these reports online that maybe they're having trouble selling some tickets. I guess TNA is not the only place. So, whatever works. But at the same time, once again, you got the CM Punk chance. You got a guy that wears the outfit. He gets moved. Apparently, signs were confiscated. It was just chaos.
But you got to think Chicago is the one place that maybe they should just let that slide because there's no way they're going to be able to manage all of the CM Punk stuff.
Exactly, and that's exactly why they probably had the authority open up the show. They knew the chants were going to happen. Might as well get them out of the way, reference them. And I think Stephanie, much like Paul Heyman back when, Hijack Raw happened, did a really, really nice job of just shutting them down, at least temporarily. What did you think about that?
That's pretty much the best way to try and hush the CM Punk chants is to just have Stephanie McMahon come out there and call him a quitter and everything. So I think that really was the best method because no one else really, aside from maybe John Cena or Triple H, would be able to have that improvisational skill to really shut them down.
Yeah, and we were watching Raw together, and at one point Seth Rollins was out there, and he had like this huge pause, and this huge CM Punk chant just breaks out. And instead of really trying to improvise or do something to really get rid of it, they effectively raised the magnitude of it by just having him be silent, just doing nothing to really get rid of it.
It'd be a lot better if you just try and talk over him instead of by being silent. He was only encouraging it, because generally when a wrestler's cutting a promo and a chant breaks out, they'll usually pause to allow the chant to resonate.
Then again, you got to think about that pressure. Do you have Triple H behind you? So you want to shut them up, but you got to be very careful about what you say, So,
I think they'd be more impressed, though, if he actually did shut them up.
Yeah, but I guess maybe he's not at that level. But let's actually get into a couple things from Raw. We'll be talking about WWE 2K15 and other cool stuff. We're going to talk about the money. We got to talk about BunnyMania also. But first off, so Dean Ambrose has definitely been the main focus on Raw ever since Roman Reigns' absence. And it's just crazy how quickly, people, I won't say forgot about Roman Reigns, but how quickly they welcomed Dean Ambrose into the scene. Are you happy? Like, how are you feeling about that?
Well, I don't think it's a complete coincidence that the bad Raws seem to have stopped, or at least the Raws have gotten better since the shows have been centered around Dean Ambrose. And I'm not just trying to be a big smark here because, I'm a big fan of Ambrose, but I do feel like Ambrose's character being back has sort of brought new life to the show. It feels a little more fresh.
Yeah, because it adds controversy. I mean, I think it was like a month ago or something I was talking about that in the podcast where everything was just happening too perfectly. There was nothing to really interrupt because it was always the authority. Kind of like when Evolution in 2003 was taking over, there was a point where it was just like, I get it. You guys are going to keep interrupting. You guys are going to keep getting your own way. And it's nice that we have the Stone Cold of this generation in Dean Ambrose that really sort of puts a stop to that, be it, robbing the Money in the Bank briefcase or being locked inside a room. Like, there's a lot of cool things that he's doing, and he's making them work.
See, I think the difference between building the show around Ambrose and building it around Reigns is the fact that Ambrose actually has a kind of established character. It's a lot easier to actually write creative segments around him. They can do that whole merchandise thing and it makes sense. They can do the whole hiding in a box or whatever, because he seems to be hiding in Christmas presents or whatever the heck. So, or it was a birthday gift, I should say.
Big Alice in Chains
So
fan.
It just seems like it's, yeah. that was a pretty
bad.
good one. Never mind. It was horrible. But what I'm trying to say is a character like Ambrose, it's much easier for the creative team to come up with more interesting ideas, more Stone Cold-like type segments, if you will.
No, and he's a more visual character because he's very expressive. Roman Reigns is the quiet character. I mean, even going back to The Shield, everybody sort of assumed that Dean Ambrose was the leader simply because he was way more obvious. He was kind of crazy. Roman Reigns was the quiet guy, and it's really hard to sort of focus a new guy when he hasn't really proven himself, like being in the company for a lot of years, even though The Shield has done amazing. But then you have a character like Dean Ambrose that you can watch, you can switch on Raw for 10 seconds and you can already tell what character he is just because he's yelling, he's running, you see his facial expressions that, there's like multiple GIFs of him online because he makes it a very entertaining product. And I want to sort of take it to you, the whole throwing the clothes, to the fans. I want to bring this up because other wrestlers have done this in the past and people don't necessarily enjoy the segments. The Crime Time had when Lita got retired, they threw away her clothes, even a vibrator and all that, which, I mean, the Seth Rollins thing, that's another thing. But were you happy with the segment? Did you feel it really fit the character of Ambrose?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of other wrestlers maybe not would be able to pull off that segment. I think Ambrose pulled it off well because he kind of has that, weird klepto side to him even, because you could picture him going to the concession stand and just stealing a bunch of shirts. It kind of works with his sort of rebellious nature. You would believe it if this guy slept on the street instead of getting a hotel room every night. He just kind of has that weirdness to him. And sorry to any one of those who sleep on the street, no offense.
Thanks for listening to the show, at least.
But you could see that it would actually work with his character. If John Cena were to do this, it would be a little weird, but at the same time, I could completely see a segment like that with John Cena. But I think it worked.
And I think one of the aspects that you brought up is he's believable. Maybe we
he's
can
believable.
Believable. I mean that's another way to put it, because you can have characters like Dean Ambrose, like Boogeyman. You can have Rusev, all these characters that are pretty much stereotypical. He's not the first crazy guy. I mean, we have Bray Wyatt on the same roster, but something about Dean Ambrose makes you think that the cameras will go off and he will still be sort of like that. And that's actually not too far from the truth. I mean, I'm not saying he's crazy off screen, but back when he was John Moxley, he'd do a lot of shoot interviews. You can check them out. I think they're on High Spots and all that. And he always talks about wrestling just being fun. He always, people would take wrestling too seriously, and you can really tell that he lives that. He just tries to have fun. Maybe his facial expressions sometimes are a little crazy, but people are posting him online. People are laughing about him. It gets people talking.
Have you ever seen the video? He's at some indie show and he's drunk and he sings Sweet Caroline, or at least he's acting like he's drunk.
I've heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah, he sings Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline, and then he says he's going to do a Neil Diamond cutter. It's pretty amazing. So look it up on YouTube. Definitely worth a watch.
I'm going to have to do that after the show, actually. So moving away from Ambrose, there was a very unexpected thing that this is where I'm really upset that Keith isn't on the show, because we have to bring this up. We've been talking about the fact that the Wyatt family has kind of been absent, after this whole Jericho feud and all that. It really led to nothing. Then we get a Bray Wyatt video package, and we're thinking that maybe, the Wyatt family's coming back. That's awesome. But then he says he is going to let Luke Harper free. Now, Ryan, could you sort of simulate what Keith's reaction was? I know it's a little difficult, but I think you can do it, man.
I don't know if I can.
Come on, try, man.
How did he do it? I don't know how
like,
he was.
What?
There. Now I got you to do it instead.
True.
Yes, he was freaking out. I'm really sad he can't be here right now to actually give his actual reaction, but he is really upset. But I'm not quite as upset because I'm not about to freak out before I actually see what they do. Maybe we'll find out with SmackDown going on probably in a couple hours as of this recording. Maybe we won't find out till Raw. But it doesn't necessarily mean he's out of the Wyatt family and he's just going to be on his own. What I'm thinking is possible, and I want to get your thoughts, is what if he's just going to get more of a singles role and Bray Wyatt is going to take a step back in a manager role because they really don't have anyone for Bray Wyatt that they deem maybe worthy right now. We talked about how big his opponents have been, so maybe it's time they just work on Harper and have Bray take a step back. What do you think?
Well, first of all, Eric Rowan, we're so sorry, man. I mean, we got nothing to really say.
There's another guy.
Yeah, but I think what you're bringing up is exactly what they need to do. What better way to further develop Bray Wyatt than take him away from the ring? Keep developing his character by putting another guy over, because we've seen Luke Harper and Eric Rowan complement. They're secondary to the Wyatt family. What happens if they shift the focus? So now Bray Wyatt focuses all his energy, all his frustrations. He can still be the exact same character, but put Luke Harper over. And I think a lot of people forget, he's a big guy. He's a great wrestler. I mean, in most of the matches, he has outshone Bray Wyatt, I would say. Match-to-match basis, I don't think Bray Wyatt's that great of a wrestler, or at least his character. I'm not going to get nitty-gritty here, but just I haven't really enjoyed a Bray Wyatt match. But you put the Wyatt family, you put Rowan and Harper there, and it's usually pretty good.
I mean, I think he had a hell of a match with Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt I'm speaking of. But then again, you're in the ring with Daniel Bryan. I don't think Bray Wyatt's a bad worker, but I think when it comes to top-notch matches, the Wyatt, Rowan and Harper as a tag team have had more great matches than Bray Wyatt. So I'd agree with you there.
Yeah, so it's a matter of how deeply are they going to push him? Because say hypothetically, let's jump the shark here. We are right. And, they end up doing this whole managerial thing. How far are they going to take Luke Harper? Because think about it, it's pretty crowded right now. We have the Intercontinental Championship scene full. We have the U.S. Championship situation happening with Sheamus and Cesaro. We have the primary championship. You have how many guys up in that scene, and it's being held by Brock Lesnar. So just where does he really fit into the scene?
Well, I mean, is necessarily that Sheamus spot really completely taken up right now? I mean, they could pretty easily do a Luke Harper-Sheamus feud, which I think would actually be really good. And I could completely see him kind of getting into the U.S. title scene. It's weird that maybe Bray... I guess the whole tag team thing they're just going to put to rest, because clearly they're focusing on Harper. So it's really U.S. title scene, and probably maybe not going to start right there. You might just start with another singles competitor. I'm trying to think of anyone besides Sheamus, but I think Sheamus is a pretty good feud idea.
Now, last question about this. I sort of mentioned this as a joke at the beginning, but where does this leave Eric Rowan? I mean, we've made fun of this situation for months, but now more than ever, it's very obvious that WWE's like, you know what, Luke Harper, he's the man. The other guy, he's in there. He was still in the vignettes and all that, but are they just going to play it off like it's these two guys supporting this one man? So it's like they're almost swapping Harper for Wyatt.
It comes down to the process of elimination. They don't have anything for Bray Wyatt right now. It's pretty clear. And the tag team scene is kind of crowded, and they can't really fit the Wyatts in there. So if you're gonna do the singles push, you're gonna go with Harper over Rowan. So I think it's just kind of come down to that. They need to do something with the Wyatt family. They can't do the tag thing, so you go with Harper. So I think it's sort of just a situation of circumstance, and obviously Harper's the best option.
Yeah, we do want to end up this little portion by sending it out to everybody listening, because I really am curious. Where does everybody think Eric Rowan is going to end up in this? Is he going to play second fiddle? I mean, the third man? Like, what's going on completely here? Yeah, it's a tough situation for him, but I mean, I hope he still gets a good paycheck.
Will he bring back the Highlanders?
Hey, that would actually be interesting. But we'll see what happens there. Now, switching things to sort of if the Luke Harper thing is interesting and intriguing, this is sort of like me trying to honestly care about this segment. I still don't really care about this Rusev versus America scenario they're doing right now, specifically with Big Show. For part one, are you really happy with how they're treating the Rusev Big Show storyline right now?
It's pretty much the same feud every single time, just insert new American babyface here. I did like that Rusev actually got on the mic, and I don't think he was that bad at all. So that was probably the positive that I'll take away from that. But do I care about this feud? No. When's the last time I cared about a Big Show feud? I don't know. When did he break the ring with Lesnar?
Man.
I don't know.
A decade in the making.
It's been a while.
Yes, as I could hold my head up high. Okay, so talking about this segment then, we had this whole flag situation that even WWE had to apologize for, which is that Big Show pulled down the flag that's usually at the conclusion of every Rusev Lana segment. And to me, it just hurt me in the head a little bit, because the WWE had to issue an apology in WWE.com, and I'm thinking just, you write the show. I mean, you know that you have an international audience that may find that offensive, yet you do that, yet you apologize. I mean, maybe it's, to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, but it's just, I just don't care about the flag situation.
You nailed it.
Yeah,
you nailed it. A lot of businesses run by that philosophy. It's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission, and that's exactly what they did, because if they did it and got away with it, fine, then you just keep moving, and it's like, oh, worst case, we'll just, put a little apology up there. I pretty much did see that coming, that was going to happen, because, WWE is watched by people worldwide, and they like to sort of pretend sometimes that it's just about America, even though they love to gloat about the network being in 170 different countries. Well, why don't you try and show a little respect to those 170 other countries? I don't know if the network's in Russia, but I'm sure they lost a lot of subscriptions if it is. How do you pull down a country's flag and not expect any type of backlash?
Yeah, because I think that's the big issue I have with it. Because I mean, we've had Muhammad Hassan, we've had Iron Sheik, Sergeant Slaughter when he turned heel. So this is not exactly new. But what I'm thinking is, you're a company that tries to appeal to kids, yet you're teaching kids effectively, hey, either America is cool and everything else is not, or, what's happening here? What's the message you're trying to deliver as a company? Then you're apologizing. And then who does this feud really appeal to? I think it's more of just like the live audience, honestly, more than anything else. But what do you think?
Well, it also comes down to the fact that when does WWE not perpetuate stereotypes? I mean, you can look back forever. It's always stereotypes. Sheamus talks about having a pint and, it's speaking in the Irish accent. I think he does actually naturally speak like that. But Eddie Guerrero was a guy who amped up his accent because he actually didn't have
Alberto Del Rio.
The accent. Yeah, Alberto Del Rio. I mean, Eddie Guerrero came out in a lowrider and everything. Like, they always
Los
do the
Guerreros,
stereotypes.
dude, stealing.
Exactly. A crime time. Need I say more? And the most obvious example recently in NXT, we had Becky Lynch, who came out and was doing Irish step dancing. And it was so bad. And people disapproved of it so much that they actually changed the gimmick pretty quickly. And what do you know? It's actually better.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because there was an article with the NXT 5, so like Hideo Itami, Finn Balor. I'm still getting used to the transition process, people. But basically, Kevin Steen, Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville talking about how WWE is not portraying stereotypes as much anymore. I mean, obviously, it's never going to go away completely. It's part of wrestling. Wrestling is really always revolved around controversy, stereotypes, and a couple of different things because it's what it is. So I don't know where I'm really going with that, except I still don't care. Despite all that we've said, I just don't care about this feud. Does anybody else care about this feud? Please.
Yeah, maybe the point is we're not surprised that WWE would pull this like Russian angle with the stereotypes and stuff because they like to feed off of controversy. Rusev was Bulgarian, but because Lana can speak Russian and, there's issues with Russia right now, all of a sudden let's just turn them Russian to get the heat. I mean, it makes sense, but I think it's outstayed its welcome because, like I said earlier, we've seen the same feud 3 times now in a row.
Yeah, and each time it's pretty much been the same. So it's a question of who is going to dethrone Rusev off this scenario. We'll have to stay tuned. But before we break off into the halfway section of the program, I do want to bring up a little bit of an interesting tidbit. Now, Matt's fan on the Squared Circle subreddit, which Triple H apparently loves, brought up a pretty interesting rumor, Ryan. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Well, sir, according to him, now take this with a very, 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 very finely chopped grain of salt, at Hell in a Cell, you may see Brie Bella take on Nikki Bella in a Hell in a Cell match. Now, I thought that this is an interesting thing to bring up because considering our podcast, our discussions for the past month, what is your immediate reaction after hearing this?
My immediate reaction is, well, also according to Mets fan, AJ Lee should be pregnant right now and not wrestling. So I am going to really take it. Yes, as I reported. Thanks for that, Mets fan. So as you reported, I am going to take it with a super ultra grain of salt. So small that you need a microscope to see it. But Belle in a Cell, will that happen?
Really?
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt we're going to see it. But is that also not just a perfect commentary on how soft and stupid the Hell in a Cell match has gotten? That it's a realistic possibility that we will see the Bella Twins in a Hell in a Cell match?
Yeah, pretty much. I think that pre-mode in Hell in a Cell really does signify that, because it's sad. Because keep in mind, when the Hell in a Cell was actually placed, it was in the Attitude Era, when they would allow chair shots to the head, consistent blading, all this stuff. And the Hell in a Cell at this point is almost like a hopeful. Like, you watch the match hoping that they sort of bring some of that stuff in the past. But people forget that the cell is actually taller than it was back then. So you're never going to see another Mick Foley spot ever again, unless you watch Fight Night, which is available every Thursday on Byte. That, there you go. But going back to that, it's a matter of, like, you know what? We're never going to get that Hell in a Cell match again. We may get a really good match inside a cell, but for that, there's the cage match. Like, what can you really see other than, hey, we're seeing a chair shot to the back of the, to the back of the back, I guess, something like that. It just
back. Yeah, chair shot to the back.
I was going to say to the head, but then I tried improvising and realized it just wasn't going to happen.
Is the back of the back the front? What? I don't get it.
What? What's going on? But yeah, pretty much it's a possibility. So just a quick little comment from your side. Say this was going to happen. That's why I wanted to bring it up. Not necessarily if it's true or false, but say it is going to happen. What would your reaction be if they hypothetically announced it on Raw?
I would just be disappointed, because I know it's not going to be a good match. I don't have confidence in them having a good singles match. Never mind a Hell in a Cell match. Yes. So I don't want to see it. I'd rather them do a different Hell in a Cell. But is it even going to be that much better? I don't know. They really haven't had a... when was the last good Hell in a Cell? I mean, I can't even think of it.
I mean, they've had the Shane McMahon... Whoa, I was going to bring up Shane McMahon, if that's an indication of something. But, yeah, it's been a long while since I've watched a Hell in a Cell match that I legitimately liked. And honestly, I'm going to say something controversial. I'm not a huge fan of the Hell in a Cell match.
Oh, wait a second. Undertaker Triple H.
Which I was there live.
Yes, but if we're looking at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, all right, obviously that, because probably people would have brought that up, we would have been like, obviously, that was clearly the last good Hell in a Cell match. But let's look at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view itself.
Yeah, but just a quick comment there. And even that match, I would argue, is not allowed to be a pick. You know why? Because you have Triple H and Undertaker, two guys that have been fine, two guys that can break the rules because they're up there, but that most of the roster will not have the same opportunity. So it's almost cheap to even bring that up.
And two guys part of the old school Hell in a Cell generation.
Exactly.
The guys who were in the matches the most out of anybody.
Exactly. It's like, you better have a good Hell in a Cell match. It's not whether it's good or not. You better have a great match. I mean, think about the expectations. You had Triple H versus Jericho. You had the Mick Foley match. You had a bunch of stuff. So for everybody listening, would you want to see the Bellas inside the Hell in a Cell? And how would you actually book that? Who would win? And what's the craziest spot that could possibly happen in that match?
One thing I want to bring up, and maybe whether or not this is a question to the audience too, but, it's pretty clear Hell in a Cell is just not suited to the current era. But, at least matches like TLC and stuff are a lot better. So do you think it's time to just retire the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view?
That's a dense question. You're going...
the Hell in a Cell match, straight up.
Yeah, straight up. You know what? let's cultivate, let's let that sink in a little bit. We're going to have Keith on the show next week, so we'll talk about that. Everybody listening, we'd love to get some reactions, so we'll definitely bring those up as the weeks go on by. But because Keith is, he's a working man, he's a working man's working man, I think it's time for me to bring up another edition of...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Pick of the Week!
So we're back with another installment of the Pick of the Week. Now, Ryan, did you know that the WWE is not, in fact, the only wrestling company that exists in the world?
I don't know, you're speaking strange words to me.
What if I told you that you could go online? You open up a browser, you use your keyboard and a mouse. When you use those two things, a website can be brought up. What if I told you that if you went to ROHWrestling.com, you can actually watch awesome wrestling once a week for free?
For free?
For free, not $9.99, wow. Okay?
That's a lot cheaper than $9.99.
Exactly. No, but in all seriousness, people, I do want to bring up that, you know what? We've been talking negatively about WWE, sort of the staleness that's been going on. I found myself to be watching a lot more Ring of Honor. They do have a premium package that you can pay for, but I watched the weekly program. It's about an hour long. You can head over to ROHWrestling.com, and you can see guys, previous TNA talent. You can see AJ Styles. You can see Christopher Daniels, Kazarian. You can see guys like... you got Jay Lethal, who's a heel. He was Black Machismo in TNA. You can see what he's up to. You got the Decade, which is a great faction. You got a ton of great production value. If you watched Ring of Honor back in a couple of years ago, admittedly, their visual quality was not all that good. They weren't full screen. Their lighting was not the best. They've gotten way better. Seriously, you got to check it out. It's top-notch wrestling. It's a lot different. You definitely get used to the WWE style, so you see guys magically kick out of a lot stronger moves. They take a couple finishers more than the traditional superstar. But seriously, do yourself a favor. Check it out, ROHWrestling.com. I am a very big fan. I'm tuning in each and every week. So if you have checked it out, let us know. Hit me with a tweet at ByteThatCast, and let us know if you liked ROH Wrestling as much as I'm currently loving it, because I'm digging it. So once again, ROH Wrestling, I love it. I'm watching it. Ryan, do yourself a favor, man. Please watch it whenever you can. I'd love to just have a little bit of a segment with you and Keith in the podcast at some point.
Absolutely. I will. I promise to check it out.
Of course. I mean, I'm saying it in the podcast now. The pressure's on, brother.
Now you have to hold me to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart strategy.
So, before we go on any further, I brought up a little something special during the previous segment, which is we have something called Fight Night, which Ryan and myself, we venture into the world of WWE 2K14 each and every Thursday. We've been doing it for over a month. It's really fun. We pretty much play online. We've fought inside Hell in a Cell. We have an Extreme Rules match. But this week, if you go over to youtube.com/ByteThatCast, not only can you check out the podcast, you can check out episode 5 of Fight Night. So, Ryan, I just want a quick comment on you, from you. Have you been enjoying this experience we've had? It's different. It's not the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to do something a little different, more on the fun side. We do a lot of wrestling talk, so it's nice to actually be able to, play out a match and, have fun. And, I'm enjoying the experience, and it's a different way to express ourselves.
Exactly. We step out of the hour limit and just, have a good time. So check it out. Let us know what you think about it. Remember, you can also check out the show clips, the podcast, and slowly but surely, we're going to be revealing a little something special in the podcast within the next few weeks. So you definitely want to keep hitting that download button and checking it out. Now, I think it's time we talk about the most serious thing we can possibly bring up in the podcast, Ryan. Are you ready, sir? I did not expect that. Yeah. Okay, so talking about that BunnyMania. So Adam Rose has pretty much taken a backseat to one of his roadies, his rosebuds, I guess you could say, which is the Bunny that seems to be portrayed by a multitude of characters, of wrestlers. So Sami Zayn, Justin Gabriel. We don't know who's doing it every week, but it's happening. To the point where he is actually currently on the WWE.com roster. So it seems like this is...
Is he really?
Yeah, if you go to the website, it just says the Bunny. Like, there's almost no information. You just see the Bunny, and now there's speculations that he's striking sort of the same pose as Fandango, so it's Fandango this week. So it's like Shao Kahn, it's like Shang Tsung or something, or like a Ditto. We don't know who he is, but it's the Bunny. What I do want to bring up about this is... Obviously, some people are saying, oh, what's WWE doing? You know, the Bunny, it's killing the product. I'm never watching this again. And I want to get your reaction. Now that we see that they have a Bunny that does wrestle, because they're putting legitimate wrestlers behind the suit, does it bother you as much, or are you in that bandwagon of like, you know what, take that thing off the screen?
I'm all for it, to be honest with you. I kind of like the silly feuds. This reminds me a lot of the WLC type feud where they had Hornswoggle and El Torito, and I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought that was one of the best things that they did all year. And it was cool to see Hornswoggle come out as the Gator for Slater
Yeah.
Gator. So I like what they're doing with this Bunny thing. If anyone's ever watched Botchamania and they've seen... there's a clip where there's a guy Dragon, and he's a guy in this big dragon costume and he wrestles a match. Like, it's hilarious. So I'm in the camp that's on the positive side, that I am pro Bunny.
Yeah, same, man. I mean, I've had a Bunny empanada, so bunnies do taste pretty good. Aside from that, this Bunny I would not eat. I would actually enjoy watching a wrestling match. So I'm all for it too. I think that wrestling does need its ridiculousness. You know, it does need its funny part. And guess what? They have a Bunny that can wrestle. If they had somebody that is clearly just an actor, he can't wrestle or something, then yeah, I would totally be against it. But it's somebody that can clearly work. They're changing it up, so his moveset varies match to match. English language one. I think that, you know, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy it for what it is. And it's funny that much like the Bray Wyatt situation, Adam Rose was originally the primary character, and now he's taken a backseat to the Bunny. I mean, who would have thought that? Only in wrestling, folks. Only in wrestling. So I just wanted to quickly bring that up. So everybody listening, the Bunny, yay or nay, let us know in the YouTube video or by sending a tweet at ByteThatCast. Now, I wanted to leave the last portion of the show to a listener question, but before that, some news broke out today about WWE 2K15. Of course, there's still the strong rumor that it's coming out for PC. People have sent out messages to 2K. 2K refuses to comment, but it seems like it's going to happen. My guess is they're not announcing it because they definitely want people to get the newer consoles. And if they announce it for PC, much like me, it's like, well, there's no reason for me to get a PS4 if I was just getting it for that. However, the confirmed information we got from IGN, which Ryan is going to bring up, is something about the next gen or current gen, however you want to say, the Xbox One and PS4 mode called MyCareer. So Ryan, can you tell us something about it and your excitement for it?
All right, so there's an article on IGN that you should all check out because it's going to give more details, but I'll kind of gloss over things. We've talked about the MyCareer mode where it's going to be your created superstar, and you start, you know, from the performance center now that we're learning all the way up to, you know, main eventing WrestleMania potentially. So from what they've gathered over is you actually start legitimately at the performance center training with Bill DeMott as he yells at you. So that's pretty cool. Then you eventually move up to NXT where you're going to be fighting the likes of Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, Corey Graves. I believe Rusev, as of game time, is still in NXT.
Bo Dallas.
Yes, Bo Dallas as well. And then I guess one really cool thing is if your friends have the game as well and they have created superstars, your friends' superstars, whoever you're friends with, their created characters will actually show up as not, CPUs or whatever in your career mode.
That is awesome.
Which is just really cool. They might just do a run-in, so your friend's character might just randomly run into the game and start a feud with you or something. So some really awesome news there. The most impressive thing to me in this whole mode is, as you're working your way up, it's not completely about wins and losses. So in the past, when you've played games where you just crush Triple H in 5 seconds by doing a bunch of running DDTs, that's no longer going to get you to the main event spot. It's about your quality of match too. So if you have, a 20-minute match where you just tear the house down, all these false finishes, and maybe you come up short and you actually lose the match, that's going to give you more momentum into moving up in the ranks than it is to just do a 2-minute beatdown squash match. So there's actually sort of this match rating system where the better matches you have, the better you're likely, the more success you're going to have. And there's apparently going to be this interaction with the in-game social media. So you might be able to start like a Twitter war with Zack Ryder, and then that becomes a feud. And there's apparently even going to be an instance where if you start doing heel-like tactics in match, that actually can, in a way, turn you heel. Where, if you're using the exposed turnbuckle on somebody, that actually might get the crowd to notice and actually start booing you. So just on paper, this sounds like the greatest thing ever, but, we're going to see how it is in practice. But what did you think, Juan?
When I read it, you sent me and Keith a message saying that, you were just in love with the game mode. When I read it, I was just like, man, I'm not getting a PS4 or an Xbox One, but this is pushing it. This is what we've sort of wanted. For how many times have we complained about the 30 years of WrestleMania or the Attitude Era mode, which is like, I have to win the match. I have to wait for this specific moment. What happens when you take that away, which is like, guess what? The moment of the match, I choose it. If I want to be a heel, I can expose the turnbuckle and keep using that. Have people hate me. That's my path. I actually choose my path. Now, as you mentioned, this could work or this could be horrible. The same way with the Undertaker streak mode. There's ways of exploiting these things. So if that's not the case, if they really do a good job of polishing this, which could be why they delayed the game. Think about it. This makes a lot of sense. This is think about the AI, think about like all the coding, whatever the hell they got to do to make this work properly. This could be a game-changing experience. This could be an endless story mode. We brought up like SmackDown 2, No Mercy. They have these extensive story modes. You could have created superstars each time, take them down the exact same thing. But, one time I'm going to get, Hans Chaddington interfering in my match. I may get Chicken Shot in the other one. It's like, what's going on? You never know what to expect. One thing I'm a little bit worried is they brought up the fact that it'll adjust your CW's attributes. So like this is how you get their stats up. Obviously, we like to create a lot of guys. So what happens if I want to have 10 guys? Does that mean that I need to have 10 guys go through that? Because that's going to be a little bit rough. But they definitely are going all out on the simulation aspect. If you check out the videos on YouTube, there's still no official ones. But from the alpha build, it's a much slower game. For better or worse. It looks very fluid. It looks very smooth. You can tell it's the same game, but they're just polishing the crap out of it. So, we always say this whenever they implement something. It's like, oh, next year it's going to be way better. If this works really, really well this year, next year's game is going to be off the chain when they built the ground that, who knows, they can do an online MyCareer mode, like a legitimate all-out thing. What do you think about that? How big do you think they can make this?
I think that's the next step. Like you said, this is the foundation, and they're just going to build on it. This is the first game of the new generation, and it's clear they're actually making an effort to make it a sort of next-gen game. So I think online would be the next step. I've always talked about how you could compare it to Madden's online franchise mode, and it's perfectly doable. Where, everyone can kind of be on the same roster and, say there's just a Monday Night Raw. Well, certain people, everyone might have individual matches that night and, everyone can just play their match. And when it's done, whoever's the leader of the franchise just moves on to SmackDown. And if two people have to face each other, then they can coordinate a time to play against each other. It's a perfectly possible thing for them to go. But they got to build that foundation. And this career mode, if it's what it says it's going to be, sounds really awesome. And funny enough, one of the biggest things to me that matters is the fact that you don't have to win every single match, and that every time you play it, you're not just going to go down the same 2 or 3 branches. It's pretty annoying when you have to win every single match and it's just a very linear story. So the fact that it's not going to be linear and that it's actually going to be difficult from what they imply to win the world title makes it seem like it's going to be a long and fun process.
Yeah, but it all boils down to the thing you brought up. Will it work? Because based on all that you mentioned, the first thing that I thought of that I want to do is like, I want to be like Stone Cold when Bret Hart got him in the sharpshooter. I want to be the guy that people love because I lost in a certain way. Does the game go to that extreme length? Like, I won't purposely have a 20-minute match, because I'm on the NXT main event or whatever in the story mode, and I'm taking on the champion. I'm going to lose, but I am going to lose so freaking well that they will have to move me up or something. Does the game take that into an account? Damn, it would just be amazing.
I think when it comes down to it, it's all about how the whole match rating system is going to be and how smart it's going to be. I mean, we saw a little bit of this, just a little bit of a taste of this with the Undertaker streak mode where it rates your match afterwards.
Yeah.
That's about the closest thing that they've made an effort for with this before now. And so hopefully they ramp that up and it can really actually read and kind of be intelligent about what makes a good match. Because it could be a really exciting feature. And, it's true with what you're saying, like, losing in an epic fashion, like that can be a really great way to kind of get your guy over. But it's really how good are they going to make that match rating?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where even if IGN or anybody does the video of it, it won't be the same as when you actually get to play it. Unfortunately, we may not even get that opportunity. I don't plan on getting a next generation console. However, if the PC version has this content and not just the PS3 version, then I can't wait to get my hands on this. Remember, WWE 2K15 comes out on October on PS3 and 360, and on PS4 and Xbox One, it actually comes out a month later in November. So before we close out the show, we've just been talking about created superstars. Now, Ryan, what if we had the opportunity to take an established guy from the roster and we give him our own unique taste? So bring up the fan question, sir.
Sure. So we got a Twitter question from Louis Varela, and that is at DA_LV3, so da level 3, I guess you could say. And he says, take one wrestler in WWE and repackage them. Who would it be?
Now, I already got my pick, so do you want to go first, or should I have the honors?
I'll go first, because I think you're going to do a better job at this than me. I was actually having a hard time thinking of anyone who I think needed an immediate repackage. A couple years ago, I think it would have been easier. I thought there were a lot worse characters, but I think they're doing a pretty good job with at least, what most gimmicks are. Maybe I would have repackaged Brodus Clay, but unfortunately he's gone. So my pick is actually Titus O'Neil. Now, I actually do like the whole Slater Gator thing, but I think Titus O'Neil, this is a guy who has the look, he's got the charisma, he's good enough in the ring that I feel like this guy could be a lot more. I mean, he's got the size and the build that Vince, drools over, so it's amazing he's not doing more. So I would probably repackage him to be more of an aggressive main event type of guy. And I know they flirted with that. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what type of character I would give him or type of gimmick or anything like that. but just to have him be a little more serious, even though he can be fun too, it's really difficult, but I feel like he deserves more.
So basically, take him, but please push him and let him be himself.
I almost don't really have a repackage more than just a push, which is just a terrible answer, but that's what I got. You know, my only other thought was Adam Rose, even though the whole bunny thing might be working right now, I did actually enjoy the Leo Kruger character that he did before, and I think that has more of a ceiling. It has a higher ceiling than Adam Rose does. So there's probably a better answer on actually repackaging a gimmick. If you can go back and watch old NXTs if you want to see the Leo Kruger character, which I think worked.
Yeah, would that be more of refurbishing?
That's actually a really good term, but that's it could be that too. But they could make him more of a bounty hunter. They could amp up that whole bounty hunter thing. But Leo Kruger, that's probably a better answer.
That's a pretty good pick. For me, going on with this NXT theme, I'm going to bring up somebody from NXT Redemption, a podcast, a show. Juan, wake up, sir. NXT Redemption was this thing that I think around 5 people watched, because when I went to WrestleMania with Keith, I met this guy called Johnny Curtis, who maybe had about 5 people in that line, and that guy proceeded to be known as Fandango. In NXT Redemption, he was this very awkward, very weird, like sensual yet weird, yet all these things, and he made that work so well. And then they proceed to make him a dancer. He flops after his match with Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, and we haven't really seen him over the past month. I think that the WWE did a really bad thing with him, so my pick is actually also a refurbishing, which is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They tried to fix Fandango. If you actually look at some of the original Fandango sort of dark matches, like some videos leaked online, it seems like at the beginning he was actually a hybrid version of Johnny Curtis and Fandango. He would come out, there was this curtain that would drop down, and he would do like weird, very, very weird dances, like horrible dances. And that seemed like a lot of Johnny Curtis, but then they went all out with the dancing route. So that's really unfortunate. I do think that character was exceptional, and I think NXT Redemption, just a quick note, was a great example of when you let somebody be themselves, it works. Case in point, Ethan Carter III. Derek Bateman was amazing in NXT Redemption because honestly, you could tell they gave 2 shits about that show. I mean, everybody was doing whatever the hell they wanted. The characters were inconsistent, but guess what? They were having fun. I mean, they kidnapped somebody, and that person would be on SmackDown, yet on the next NXT, they would magically still be kidnapped. I mean, the writers weren't even consistent within the own product. Magically, they were kidnapped again. What's going on here? Matt Striker is who I'm talking about. And with Derek Bateman, that was the case. So, Johnny Curtis, please look him up. Obviously, he didn't get that much opportunity to shine in NXT Redemption because it lasted seemingly forever, but it was only a couple of months. But check that out. So Fandango is my pick. Thank you, Louise, for that awesome question. Remember, everybody else, you can send us questions at Byte That Cast. We select them each and every show to make sure we engage. We love these questions. We love these hypothetical scenarios. And when you give us the people power to make our own picks. So with that being said, Mr. McNulty, close out the show.
All right, we want to thank everyone once again for listening this week. As usual, I've got my plugarinos to go through. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. Hit the subscribe button. Like Juan said, we got another edition of Fight Night coming up this week where we're going to be doing a flaming tables match in WWE 2K14. I also will have a video about wrestling discussion or wrestling news. I'm not sure what it's going to be about yet, but I'll have a video up this weekend. Don't forget, as always, to check out our podcast not only on YouTube, but it is also available on iTunes and Stitcher. And follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/ByteThatCast. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.